Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 23, Text 48. Dasa sushuve sadyo Devahuti striya prajaha Sarvastars charu savangyo Lohitotpala gandhaya Dasa sushuve sadyo Devahuti striya prajaha Sarvastas chalusavangyo Lohitotpala gandhaya Atasa sushuve sadyo Devahuti striya prajaha Sarvastas charusavangyo Lohitotpalagandaya Atasa Sushuve Sadhyo Devahuti Shriya Prajaha Sarvastas Charu Savangyo Lohitotpalagandaya Atasa Sushuve Sadhyo Devahuti Shriya Prajaha Sarvastas Charu Savangyo Lohitotpalagandaya Ata, then, Sa, she, Sushuve, gave birth, Sadhya, on the same day, Devahuti, Striyaha, females, Prajaha, progeny, Sarvaha, all, Taha, they, Charu Sarva Angyaha, charming in every limb, Lohita, red, Utpala, like the lotus, Gandayaha, fragrant. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Immediately afterward, on the same day, Devahuti gave birth to 9 female children, all charming in every limb and fragrant with the scent of the red lotus flower. Please repeat. Immediately afterward, on the same day, Devahuti gave birth to 9 female children, all charming in every limb and fragrant with the scent of the red lotus flower. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Devahuti was too sexually excited and therefore she discharged more ova and 9 daughters were born. It is said in the Smriti Shastra as well as in the Ayurveda that when the discharge of the male is greater, male children are begotten, but when the discharge of the female is greater, female children are begotten. It appears from the circumstances that Devahuti was more sexually excited and therefore she had 9 daughters at once. All the daughters, however, were very beautiful and their bodies were nicely formed. Each resembled a lotus flower and was fragrant like a lotus. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So in the beginning of Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami, he recites one verse just before he begins talking about all the different rules and regulations of sadhana bhakti. And this verse is from Padma Purana. Smartavya satatam vishnor vishmartavyo najatu chit sarve vidhi nishedasur etayor evakin karaha. Krishna is the origin of Lord Vishnu. He should always be remembered and never forgotten at any time. All the rules and prohibitions mentioned in the Shastras should be the servants of these 2 principles. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, this verse is a quotation from the Padma Purana. There are many regulative principles in the Shastras and directions given by the spiritual master. These regulative principles should act as servants of the basic principle, that is, one should always remember Krishna and never forget him. So this, when we're talking about in this pastime, there's very unusually for the Bhagavatam, because most of the Bhagavatam is talking about giving up material activities, giving up sex life, renouncing, because this is the ultimate goal of spiritual life, is to attain back to our eternal constitutional position as servants of Krishna. And that means to totally give the affection back to God, love of God, not love of material things. So this is the focus of the Bhagavatam. But here, Shukadeva Goswami is giving these pastimes of Kadamuni and Devahuti that path can involve proper use of this material sex life, basically. And it's very important to keep this verse in mind, that whenever we're talking about the application of anything in Krishna consciousness, including the application of use of sex life or use of eating or any of these material things, in Krishna consciousness, in Bhakti Yoga, the focus is on what is the ultimate point of all this. We see in personal school, and especially in the Smarta school, that the following of the rules is almost like that's the goal itself. Like you followed the rule, therefore, yes, you were successful. But we see here in this verse from Prabhupada Purana is saying that all the rules and prohibitions mentioned in the Shastra should be servants of these two principles, remembering Krishna and not forgetting him. So these rules and regulations, how to regulate the senses, they're not standalone things. They don't stand on their own. That, we just do this, why do we do it? Right, just because we do it. No. There's a reason why everything's doing, and this is the reason to help us remember Krishna and to help us not forget Krishna. Another verse that's relevant in this regard is the second verse of Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita, where Rupa Goswami says that practice niyamagraha, because the word niyamagraha is used, and Srila Prabhupada explains that this means practicing the rules and regulations just for the sake of it, that thinking that following the rule is my success, just for the sake of it. Why do I do this? Oh, because this is success, I followed this rule. Or at the same time rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. So these instructions are given that when we're talking about utilizing the material world, then we have to always remember what is the reason we're doing that. What's the ultimate goal? What's the ultimate end of all of these rules, regulations, of all of these guidelines of how to act? So in this Leela we can see there's four aspects of Vedic life. The four goals of the Vedas are very clearly given here and very, very much in an expanded form. The four goals of the Vedas, does everybody know what they are? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, right? And Dharma means doing the duty. Dharma means what is the duty? What is the activity that should be done? What is the Dharma? Artha means economic development, creating some facility. Kama means sense gratification, and moksha means liberation. So these four principles are here. So we can see in this Leela here, the spirit of service is given there. What is the Dharma? What is the ultimate Dharma of the living entity? Right? Sanatana Goswami asked this to Lord Chaitanya. Who am I? What am I supposed to be doing? And Lord Chaitanya gave that famous verse, right? Jivara Srupohai Krishnera Nityadas. Krishnera Tatasta Shakti Beda Beda Prakash. Your Dharma is that you're a servant of Krishna. You're a servant. You're not the Lord. That's your position. Your ultimate identity is as a servant. And that spirit of service, that pervades everything in Vedic society, in Vedic culture. So we can see here that Devahuti, when she married Kadama, she served him, she assisted him, she helped him. Yeah? That spirit of service was there in the eternal realm, serving Krishna directly. She goes into married life. Okay, then that same spirit of service is given there. Serve the husband. And then Kadama, he also had, from his side, what was his duty was to look after this woman, this girl, and provide for her, give her what she needs. And he could understand, it said in the previous verses, he could understand that she had the desire to have this kind of relationship with him, and in a nice way, so he fulfilled her desire through his mystic yoga in a spirit of service. So even in this, part of the Bhagavatam that's giving, huge, flying around in palaces, enjoying sex life, so on and so forth, but still that spirit of service is there, that's essential. This is one reason that, illicit sex is so destructive. And even not only devotees, but I was hearing just something came up on my feed the other day about, people that do like marriage counseling and so forth, psychologists that are nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, but they just say, this idea of that you can just go and have intimate relationships with different strangers one after another, it's a type of, it's a madness, they describe. It's complete madness. Because the whole idea, that the whole idea that marriage is meant to regulate the sex life is that there's responsibility to another person and there's responsibility to the children. So this idea of service, of caring, that we can see in this pastime is there from both sides, from both people in the relationship, and that's manifested in a healthy relationship according to the needs of the couple and according to the needs as they go through life. We know in Vedic life, we talked about Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. But we have the four ashrams: Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprasanyas. So at different stages of life, there's different needs. If the woman has young children, then the man has to really protect her and care for her and look after her. If they're Vanaprasas traveling to around different holy places, then that different dynamic is there. There's not that need. So it is manifested for different couples according to their natures, according to their varnas, and according to the ashram, according to the stage of life that they're in. So Dharma is seen in this entire pastime, right? Both sides. Although the pastime is describing material enjoyment, all these stuff, aerial mansions and all these things, but that spirit, it's done in a spirit of service. She's serving him, he's serving her like that. She has a need, he's helping with that. He's providing for her. Spirit of service, that Dharma is there. Second, Artha, creation of facilities, that through his strength and yogic power, he's able to create a traveling city. Who can do this? Well, only Kadamuni, right? He can do that. But still, there should be some facility. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, satisfaction of desire and creation of children. This is this is something that Vedic knowledge is different from other religions that are like, sex, it's bad, it's the devil's work or something like that. No, in Vedic society, Prabhupada says, and I'll just read here from a lecture, Prabhupada says, because marriage is recommended in the human society, there's no marriage in cat society, dog society, hog society. Any human society you take, either in the Western world or in the Eastern world or in Christian society, Hindu society, Mohammedan society, in every civilized human society, there is a ceremony called marriage. And that is also the Vedic system, that one should not have any illicit sex life, but one should be combined according to religious rite and live peacefully and execute Krishna consciousness. This much austerity. Lecture 25th September 1971. According to Vedic principles, sex life cannot be performed without a married life that is sanctioned by religion. Therefore, in human society, there is a system of marriage. Not that you keep a woman, you keep a man like cats and dogs. No, human society, maybe Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Sikh, it doesn't matter. Any civilized form of society has got this system of marriage because without marriage, sex life is irreligious. Therefore, this is one of the sinful activities, to have illicit sex life. One devotee who... Oh, sorry, that's my end there. Oh, doesn't matter. That was my note, and it came on the same point. That's the end of the quote from Srila Prabhupada. So we see here that when Prabhupada is saying that there's sanction for sex life, he is comparing it to animal life, right? He's saying, this is animal life, don't be like an animal, live peacefully, right? Live peacefully. If you want to have sex life, get married, he's saying. Don't. The illicit sex life is so destructive. The other point is that marriage is important in Vedic culture, production of good offspring, right? We see here where there's talk in this exact verse about Devahuti being more materially interested, therefore the females were born, right? We see in the case of Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, it was done at the wrong time, and because the desire of the mother was basically out of envy that her sister already had kids, and basically out of envy and lust, she just wanted right now to satisfy her lust, and she was envious that someone else had, her sister already had children. Aditi already had children, Diti didn't. So like this, you get through out of lust and envy, what do you get? Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, right? So there's a science there, and sometimes I joke in my astrology classes that all of the different days have, a certain planet that's involved with them. Saturn is Saturday, and so you normally in Vedic culture we don't get married on a Saturday because Saturn is separation. But actually Rahu is like the craziest planet, that's Saturday night. So it's like, I'm like, would you want to get married on a Saturday night? Would you want to beget children on a Saturday night? No. Right? That's the Rahu time. Anyway, so this is, Vedic culture talks about these things in a very scientific way, right? It's not just talking about a theory, it's very scientific. Consciousness of the husband and wife, they're committed to each other, they're in it for dharma. They're in it for dharma, for doing their duty, right? Then the children come, there's that idea of duty, right? So this can only be within marriage, when two people have committed to each other, right? This is the importance of another important marriage, producing good offspring. In the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, right, Krishna says, one of the arguments that he gives to Krishna of why he shouldn't fight is that when all these men are killed, there'll be no one to protect the women and keep the family together, and then there'll be irreligion, and then the whole thing will go to hell. Right? So it's right. It's literally in the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita. It's all through the Vedic culture that the importance of marriage is for the next generation. It's the dharma. It's the duty to create a dutiful dharmic situation that the next generation can take shelter in. Right? This is seen also in this pastime. Right? Ultimately, there were children produced. That was the ultimate fruit of it. So there is some sanction for this in Vedic culture, for these positive reasons: satisfaction of desire and production of children, doing the duty. These two things we see described in this pastime. But we see that in Bhagavad Gita 3:34 purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about that one shouldn't think that through regulated, with regulated sense gratification, one is totally safe. No. And he gives the example that just like there can be an accident on the royal road, that still, although the royal road is perfectly made and everything, still there can be accident, right? So even if one is married, one should still be very, very careful. And it said that Lord Chaitanya, even though he was a householder, he never joked with women. It's said that in one single time he joked with a woman, was his own wife, only once, and not even directly to her. He made a joke that Mother Sachi was trying to find something, and he said, maybe your daughter-in-law took it. And that's like, literally it's described as the only time he joked with women, even as a householder. Now, what to speak as a sannyasi, he didn't have any association. When Lord Chaitanya was glorifying the consciousness of Ramananda Roy as having completely the consciousness of his spiritual form, right? When he was glorifying the conscious level of Ramananda Roy, Lord Chaitanya said, "I'm a sannyasi and I certainly consider myself renounced. But what to speak of seeing a woman? If I even hear the name of a woman, I feel changes in my mind and body. Therefore, who could remain unmoved by the sight of a woman? It is very difficult." So these instructions are given that this is a primary entanglement in the material world, this man-woman interaction, right? And as aspiring yogis, we should be very, very careful. Very, very careful, relations between man and woman is kept on a respectful way. It's not doesn't go out of those bounds, even among married people. Devi yeshu gunamai mama mai duratya. In some of these classes that I've been listening to, there have been some questions and things about, why is it that even after so long, we see that people who have been renounced sometimes for like 50 years, and then they fall down into sex life, right? How is that possible? And a couple of things that came to mind was, well, first of all, there's a lot of things you could say about that, obviously, but one thing is that Devi yeshu gunamai mama mai duratya. It's impossible to overcome this material energy. We are under this material energy. We're very, very small and we're under material energy. We can't overcome it by ourselves. Mameviya prapadente maim itam tarantite. Only by surrender to Krishna, right? And if we come back to these verses we were talking about in the beginning, that all the rules and prohibitions are the servants of always remembering Krishna and never forgetting him. So even somebody, we may be practicing bhakti yoga for decades and decades and decades, but one aspect to it is that we shouldn't think that I'm following and that's the perfection. I'm following this rule, therefore I'm successful. No, how much are you actually serving Krishna with affection? What is that? With, anukulyena Krishna anushilanam. How much are you actually thinking, yes, I'm offering this as a service to you, my Lord. This is my service to you. Krishna consciousness, that's Krishna consciousness. Following of the rule isn't Krishna consciousness. Following the rule is the support of the Krishna consciousness. It's the servant of this principle, right? All the rules and regulations should act as servants of this basic principle. So that's one thing that comes to mind, that if someone, especially if somebody's in a renounced ashram and thinking, yeah, I'm free from that now, I've attained, then Krishna can make some arrangement that we can see that, the goal of life is to surrender to Krishna, not to follow any particular rule. And so, but there's many other things that could be said. One thing that I've heard mentioned twice on the following Srila Prabhupada series, which is an incredible series. I'll just give a little shout out to that. It's all on YouTube if you have YouTube. If you have YouTube, everyone has YouTube. But especially YouTube Premium, where you don't have to watch the ads, it's good. Anyway, I don't get a cut for this. Just go to my website and click on the affiliate link. No, just checking. So, all right. Sorry, I didn't get a laugh at that. But seriously, on following Srila Prabhupada, twice is mentioned this idea of battlefield commission. Revati Nandana Prabhu says it once, and one other devotee says it, that this conversation has not been recorded, but it's related very clearly by these two devotees, so we don't really have a reason to doubt it, that Srila Prabhupada said to Revati Nandan Prabhu that I have given many of you sannyas. I'll paraphrase, I don't have the exact words, but he said, I've given many of you sannyas, but it is to be understood that you don't have most of you don't have the required strength to continue. But still, we're in a war with Maya, and just like there's a battlefield commission, so he says, the lieutenants are being killed, there's only just all privates, but he says, every third man, all right, you lead the charge. All right, you lead the charge, you lead the charge. It's called a battlefield commission. Someone is given, in the military, people probably know this, when the military's under attack, straight away someone is given the commission, all right, you're an officer, somebody has to lead the charge, although you're not qualified, but still. So this is something that some people become very, very critical of this one fell down, that one fell down, and all that sort of stuff. But, we should keep in mind this point. Firstly, that Prabhupada understood this. He understood that. He said it very clearly, that many will not be able to stand, firstly. And secondly, the minimum gratitude that should be there is that these devotees kept ISKCON together. They kept this institution together so that you're able to now criticize it. That's the minimum gratitude that should be shown. Whatever they did, they kept that institution that you want to criticize, they kept it together, so now you can criticize it nicely. Obviously, I'm being a little bit facetious there, but we should, my thought and feeling when I read these kind of things is that, wow, whatever they did, they kept this institution, they kept this movement together so many people can come. So many people can come and take shelter of Krishna, can take shelter of this movement. There's so many hundreds of temples and ashrams all around the world. So this is something we should keep in mind if we feel affected, like, wow, why did this person couldn't keep going? We should think, well, first of all, Devi Yeshugunamai is very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. And also we should think, whatever they could do, it's eternal to their benefit and it's eternally to our benefit, that they were able to maintain this movement such that we can come and take shelter of it. Dharma artha kama, okay, now moksha, ultimate renunciation. We can see that throughout this whole process, throughout this whole pastime, Kadama Muni is thinking, oh, my wife has these needs, all right, I'll manifest this aerial mansion and, have these experiences with her and everything. But he's thinking, this whole way he's thinking, yes, but ultimately my goal. Now, you might say, why did he get involved in the first place? Well, it's said there that he had the desire to be married, right? Right in the beginning, chapters ago. He had the desire to be married. So then you say, why he wanted liberation and he wanted marriage at the same time? Yeah, because he wanted liberation and he wanted marriage at the same time. He wanted both. So he went through this process, but at the same time he's thinking, I have this need. I want to be married. I want to have association with women, but I also want Krishna consciousness. So he does it in a responsible way, and as soon as he has a chance, then he immediately leaves, right? And he takes up his spiritual life again strongly. Dharma to kama moksha. This is the ultimate goal of Grihastha ashram, that one can renounce, one can, been there, done that. Don't have that goal, don't have that desire, been there, done that. The idea, Krishna says this verse, Visha vinivatate nirharashidena rasavajam rasopyasha paramdrishva nivatate. The idea is that there's a higher taste. So when one experiences, peaceful family life, things work, the children are going to school, everything's going nicely. When one sees that material life is going nicely, there's a certain taste in that. There's a certain material happiness in that. Yes, the married life is going nicely. And then at the same time, one maintains a spiritual practice and they maintain their chanting, they're hearing the holy name, they're hearing Bhagavatam, they're hearing from senior devotees. And there's a taste in that, right? And when one does that gradually through life, although in young life, the interest to achieve, and when one's 20 years old, the interest to achieve and have occupation, it's there's a lot of motive passion there, so strong. But then one keeps the Krishna consciousness, then gradually as it goes along, one sees that. Parandrasta nivatate. the higher taste. The higher taste means there's relative between this and this. So one understands that this material life is a lower taste, and gradually, while doing the material duties, doesn't be irresponsible. While doing the material duties, he cultivates a spiritual life at the same time, and very gradually is able to give that up, not out of force, all this stuff. Nira harasya dehina, right? Krishna says, if you give it up just out of force, then there's chance that taste may be there. Of course, if someone doesn't have to go into Grihastha ashram, all the better, great. But this is the general process. But the point here is that Dhammartha Kama Moksha, the renunciation is the ultimate goal. That's the ultimate goal of the ultimate goal. There are other subsidiary goals: having good children, keeping society together, passing on the dharmas to the next generation, so on and so forth. But for oneself, the ultimate goal is to be in a situation in later life that one feels like, I lived a good life, I'm happy with what I did, I gave whatever I could do, and I'm very happy now to just, on my deathbed, just hear the pastimes of Krishna, just chant the holy name of Krishna and go back to Godhead. Right? That's where we want to be. All right, I'll leave some time for questions or comments. If there's any. Yes, Prabhu.
Practicing for many years, people trip over and have some difficulties. So I was thinking that it seems to maintain that consciousness that I'm a servant, it protects us. Yeah. Wherever we're at in Krishna consciousness, whether we're new or been around for a long time, if we can just meditate on that I am a servant. Yeah. I'm a servant of the other devotees, I'm a servant of my spiritual master, I'm a servant ultimately of Krishna, then we're safe. Definitely. And the other thought I thought was, you were mentioning about Kadama, and there's a verse in the Bhagavatam, and he had material desires, it seems, as well. But there's a verse, that one about either akama or savakama. No matter how many desires we have, if we just stick to the path, everything will be fulfilled.
Yes. Akama savakama va mokshakama dharadi tivrena bhakti yogana yajeta purushaparam. Whether one has no desire, all desire, or desires liberation, still one should tivrena, with great determination, with fixedness, one should perform devotional service, And on the first point, this is the goal. And you see, devotees talked about Srila Prabhupada in this way too, that he was so advanced, but he had a super dependent. There's one really nice quote where Prabhupada said, something about fall down, and Prabhupada said, I'll never fall down. And the devotees were like, yes, of course, Prabhupada, you're a Paramahansa, you'll never fall down. And Prabhupada said, no. The reason I'll never fall down is because I'm always praying to Krishna, always praying to Krishna. He's continually in that mood. I'm your servant, please, please protect me from this. And please always keep me in your service. So that was exactly what you just said. That why he does, and we see, I've seen in my spiritual master as well so many times, Chapataka Maharaj, many exalted devotees in our movement that you see, they've been around for so long. But when it comes down to it, they have this such a simple, Vaishnava attitude. There's one time that I was saying I think Guru Maharaj was saying in one class who wants to go back to Godhead, or who wants to get Nitai Prem or something, and everyone put their hand, and the servant said, Guru Maharaj, you don't want? He went, put his hand up. They're just that simple kind of those ones who are able to maintain that, they're able to maintain that feeling of being a servant. And I personally don't feel, I've never felt my faith shaken by leaders falling down. And one reason was that I feel in every circumstance that I know about, it's simply backed up what the Shastras are saying, And on this point of being a servant, I remember being a very new devotee. I think I've been devotee for about 18 months. Went to India, and there was a certain leader giving class there in India, in the old Gurukul place. And I was a very, very new devotee, but I just remember somebody asked a question, and it was quite a sort of simple, innocent question. And rather than just answer the question, this leader sort of had this whole thing back to him, like, who are you to ask that question, and why do you think you're this, and all this. And I just thought, wow, I don't think this person's very emotionally well. As like just, I've been, chanting for a year or something. And then it came out, I think it was within 2 years later, that they weren't able to maintain their position, and they'd had a fall down and gone back to material attachment, material life. So that was just my direct experience, but others too that they especially don't keep association with senior devotees, especially if they're in the round ashrams, and they travel on their own, and they don't have, they don't really confide, and they have some difficulty. And you talk to their godbrothers, and they say, "What's that?" Well, he never really, he didn't take association with others. He wasn't in that mood of a servant, of being dependent on others. He was like, "Yes, I'm the renunciate," or something, and it doesn't last. So, or offences, just that. What's the opposite of being a servant of the devotees? Is being an offender, right? Taking the position of, I'm the Lord, yes, I should take all this service, or something like that. And one has to be extremely pure and advanced to take service from others. So if just all to confirm what Prabhu you were just saying, like to have that idea that we're the servants of others. And I think that's what I was saying is, even in the Grihastha life, right? And in this case, where there's so much, there's so much austerity first. He was doing so much austerity and she just served him. And her hair was totally matted. She had nothing to eat. She's all skinny because she didn't care. She said, "No, this is my husband, I have to serve him." And then here, out of his service mood, said, "Oh, this is my wife, I have to serve her. What are her needs? What does she need? What does she want?" And he served her. So even in that situation, when that service mood is there, everything works wonderfully, Yeah. So, yeah. Is there anything else? Yes, bro.
That just reading the Rupa Goswami's Nectar of Instruction recently, and you were just mentioning about falling down, and if someone falls down, then for you it kind of affirms what the Shastra says.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just thinking, the Nectar of Instruction, it's such a simple book, but literally the first 6 chapters, if you study those and practice those, and those 6 chapters can really, protect you from falling down.
Yes.
They're quite significant texts.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very significant.
Yeah.
100%, yes. Thank you. Yes, Manji. Can you take the...
Thank you for the class, Prabhu. On the topic of fall down, and I was listening to a few lectures, and it talked about also having integrity. So even now with the social media, everyone is presenting something, but then I was listening to a podcast, Namras, with the ISKCON Swami, and he said, he tries to maintain integrity in his social media presence, what to speak of physical presence. So I was just thinking that saying, it says better to be an honest sweeper in the street than a pretentious charlatan. And like you're talking about Lord Chaitanya, that he never joked with women. So wearing saffron is such a big responsibility. It's not something to be joked about. And as you mentioned, that we should be so service mood, and we shouldn't think that I accept service from others. Just that point you were mentioning about having children and having Krishna conscious children. We see in our movement that sometimes the devotees who join, there's that principle of nurture and nature, because some would have not come from a good background. So it also gives hope. Can you talk a bit more about that, the nurture part?
About how we don't have to be born from devotees to make advancement? Yeah, I mean, that's the whole beauty of Lord Nityananda's and Lord Chaitanya's movement is the most fallen are given a chance. And there's really only one qualification, which Ramprasad Prabhu was saying, that in all states we have to realize that we are not the masters, we're the servants. We're the servants of the Lord, we're servants of our spiritual master, we're servants of all the devotees. In everything we do, we're servants of our husband, our wife, we're servants of our parents, even if our parents aren't devotees. Our goal is to, how can we help them in their spiritual life? Even if they don't want a spiritual life, but they don't have, how can we be nice to them such that they, like us, like Srila Prabhupada said to Urmila Mataji's father, he came to Prabhupada and said, I'm Jewish, is it okay if I come to the temple? And he said, yeah, well, she is loving Krishna and you're loving her, so two things that love the same are equal to each other. So, that we make, even if we have non-devotee parents or family, how does it help them if we're fanatical and rude and arrogant? Oh, you meet. How does that help them? It doesn't help them at all. But to help them it does help them by having a loving relationship with them. We want to have, loving relationships with non-devotee families and so forth. And we just take out the meat eating, alcohol, whatever else they do that we don't want to get involved with. We just leave that out. We go to their, we come around for lunch, we'll cook, don't worry, we'll cook, we'll take some nice vegetarian prasadam, we give to them. So in this way, if we're a little intelligent, it doesn't matter where we come from, what situation we came from. There's so many examples. There's one, I can't remember the name of that devotee that person who, he came to the sage, and the sage said, what Varna are you? Are you a Brahmin? He said, I'm not sure, I've gone and check with my mother. So he goes to check with the mother, and the mother says, well, the Varna is given by the father. Who was my father? And the mother said, honestly, she was, had to take the unfortunate, occupation. And she said, to be honest, I don't know who your father was. So many different men were there. So he went back to the sage and he said, I talked to my mother and she doesn't know who my father is, so that's it. And he said, well, therefore you're a Brahmin. I said, what? Because you're truthful. You told the truth, therefore you're a Brahmin, right? Because a Kshatriya, he won't tell the truth. He'll say, well, this was a thing, a Vaishya, he definitely won't tell the truth. He'll change the truth for the Prophet, and the Sudra wouldn't have come at all. So he said, you're a Brahmana because you tell the truth. Guna kama vibhagasha, right? So you have the quality. So this is not just a thing that Srila Prabhupada or Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur or even Lord Chaitanya introduced. It's an eternal principle of the Vedas that somebody from any position in life, Bhagavatam is full of it. What is that verse? So many verses, If one is a Brahmin with full of Brahmin qualities, but he's not a devotee, he can't even save himself, what to speak of his, family. Hirata Kunandra Pulinda Pukas, Prabha Vishnavenama, that verse that if one is from the Greek area, from the China, whatever, it doesn't matter where they come from or what their previous habits are. Prabha Vishnavenama, that the strength of the Lord's holy name is such that one can attain spiritual perfection, and in some ways it's almost a benefit in this life, in this Kali Yuga. There's so many people who are born into auspicious Vedic Hindu families that have no interest in Krishna Bhakti, because their interest is in the different rituals to live a nice material life. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati described that as like you live next to the train, you live next to the train station, but then you miss the train because you're always thinking, oh no, I'm right next to the train station, no problem, I'm Indian, I know about Krishna, but then you miss the train, So or sometimes it's described like you're standing right next to God, but you're looking the other way. Sometimes described like that. So in some ways, to have a decent amount of suffering, what is that verse? Janma Ishwarya Shruta Shrivya Edamana Marapuvan Naiva Hatya Bidatam Vai Twama Kinchana Gocharam. that actually this is a great qualification to have Krishna consciousness, tvam akinchana gocharam, to have nothing but, just Krishna, to not have great wealth and all these different things, to have good family life. We see even in our community, so many. Indudumna Swami made the comment, I think, when he was initiating, I think it was Radha, Sri Radha Charana, is that her name now? Sri Radha Charana, yeah. He said, it's really great when people who are born into our movement actually join it. So many, children of devotees, even in our community, they are, they're devotees, they're loving Krishna, but how serious are they about their practices and really, cultivating the holy name, doing sadhana, taking initiation, and these different things. So, Krishna consciousness only depends on the desire. It's only due to the desire of the person to want it, to want to love God rather than to love the material idea of who they are and who someone else is. And that's not dependent on birth. Having said that, we should learn and help from those people. Just like Sutta Goswami, he was the son of Brahmahashana Sutta, right? And he was born of a mixed varna where the husband and wife were different varnas. So he had a sort of a mix. He was sort of a brahmana, but he had these other qualities, and he was accepted as the acharya. Nobody worried. He was accepted, okay, he's the one, he's sitting on the Vyasam. But then when he didn't stand up out of respect for Lord Balaram, and then Lord Balaram, removed him from that situation, the Brahmanas made the comment that, he's a Sutta. He was born of that. So he was given the chance to be on that high level, but then when he acted according to his upbringing in a lower mode, then it was noted, kind of what do you expect? He's kind of that. But only after he'd acted in that way. So like that, this is the mood of the great acharyas. They give us the chance to come to that level from any position. But at the same time, we shouldn't think that, now I'm a devotee, I put on a dhoti, or, I have, I'm putting on tilak now, so I'm, so advanced in Vedic culture or something like this. Prabhupada said in one comment, if you want to study Manu Samhita, then you're a malecha. Because on the material level, you're a malecha. So if you want to get right into it, well, then you're a malecha from that perspective. So better stick to the bhakti path, and in that way, it's ultimately, what is it? Bhakti is not dependent on any of these things. It's only dependent on our sincerity to follow the process, and by especially chanting the holy name. The holy name is what purifies us. If we want to make advancement, chant more better. Prabhupada said, chant 16 rounds. We can say, I went round 16 times. But then he also said Haridas Thakur chanted a lakh. He chanted 3 lakhs, like he chanted that many names. And then another place Prabhupada said, you have to do every syllable. So if you do the maths, you go 16 times 108 is 1728, right? Anyone that's done a clicker knows. 1728, that's the number of mantras. But then you times that by 16, you get, it's about, I can't remember something, but then you times that by 32, because that's the syllables. Prabhupada says, you should hear every syllable. So it's not Hari Ram, it's Hari Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari. He said 32 syllables. So if you times 32 syllables times 1728 times 6, it ends up to be like 27,000 something syllables. So that's actually what we're committing to at initiation. We're not committing to going around that bead 16 times. 2, not 16 rounds. We're committed to 27,000 syllables. That's from any position. If we actually focused on the holy name, every syllable, every day, for 27,000 times, very quickly, we'll leave behind our background. Haribol. Was that the question? Is that? All right. We're going to have a time. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanande. Jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.